So Gerald and Christian, will you unmute yourselves, please?
Yes, I have done.
Great.
Well, welcome everybody to Unveiling Applied Aikido. Great to have you on board. We're very excited to be with you because the whole idea of Applied Aikido Association is to gather a group of people who can support each other and inspire each other and learn from each other. So I think the plan for today will be, we're going to have a presentation by Christian Van Henten. So Christian is the originator of Applied Aikido Association. And he's the one who brought us, the people with the bamboo groves, us together as a team to work on it and to build the structure around it, around his idea. So Christian will present his vision and talk about some of the aspects of it, and then after that we'll throw it out to the floor for questions. If you have any questions about Applied Aikido as a practice or as a profession, or about the association and what the association can do for you, please hold on to your questions and please ask them, and we'll do our very best to answer your questions. So Christian, good evening, and everyone else, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I'm here speaking from New Zealand on a Sunday morning. Christian, welcome, and go ahead, Christian.
Okay, so thank you, Gerald, for this introduction on Sunday morning, and I will make my best on Saturday night to do as best as I can. So welcome everybody. It's nice to see face I don't know yet. My intention today, just I have to take care about. My intention today is contained in the title of this meeting. I will unveil Applied Aikido and draw a global picture of the Applied Aikido landscape. I mean by this not what we usually find on the mats of the dojos, but everything you probably already discovered in what I call the real world, where we leave our gi and we put it in our bag. And if you are not an Aikidoka, I don't know, Romuald, what you are, but if you are not an Aikidoka, you will be surprised to discover that the Aikido wisdom, its philosophy, and the benefits of its physical practice has never been as accessible as it is becoming now. But first, let's talk about the term Applied Aikido. The term Applied Aikido is analog to applied science. Applied science is applying the development and advances of pure science to find solution in the real world. Applied Aikido is the same. It's the application of pure Aikido, I mean the martial art that is practiced in dojos, and applying them to solve problems in the real world. But before we go a little bit further, I think it's necessary to find and define the particularities of Aikido for those of us that do not know the practice Aikido or just a little part of it. I choose here to identify what for me are the main characteristics defining Aikido rather than throwing a useless definition. Aikido is an original assembly of at least 4 main characteristics. First, the martial dimension. Aikido can be seen as a set of practice to be able to fight, and I mean here physical fight. And the specificity of Aikido is that it is a defense practice, a self-defense practice. It is a martial art without attack. And we are not trying to defeat the attacker. We are acting to transform their attack so that we are not hurt and we don't hurt. Second dimension, the physical dimension. It is logical consequence of the previous one, and I would just add a specificity of Aikido. It is mainly practiced with a partner, and we are in contact with this partner, a physical contact when they are grasping us, or we connect to them when they attack. So like this, we blend with their energy. Third dimension, the ethics. Aikido is about reconciliating opponents, getting back to harmony, cooperation, dialogue. And it can seem contradictory because the martial dimension and this ethics of peace can seem in contradiction. But I think that this contradiction is building the identity of Aikido, learning peace in conflict situations. And fourth dimension, pedagogy. Like many other martial arts, Aikido is meant to train our mind, but we learn through physical practice. And it can also seem contradictory for some people, but it is definitely an essential distinction that creates the identity of Aikido. My experience showed me that you need to find in different proportions these characteristics to talk about Aikido. I'm presenting Aikido like this because if pronouncing the term Aikido seems clear and without ambiguity, the situation on the fields is not always as simple. And let's see why. Aikido was created by Morihei Ueshiba, a Japanese martial arts master during the 20th century. He combined martial skills as well as spiritual wisdom, with a profound determination to create a martial art that would be much more than a self-defense practice. O-sensei, as Ueshiba was called, taught Aikido to his direct students. His teaching was profound and his students were young. They took away what they had grasped from the teaching of the founder, physically as well as spiritually. They spread throughout the world and began to teach Aikido, or at least what they had learned about Aikido. This led to different teachings according to the sensibility of this first generation of Aikido senseis, sensei being the name of an Aikido teacher. So Aikido became a multifaceted practice with different colors on the Aikido spectrum. Each sensei highlighted different aspects of this rich martial arts. So we can say that today there is more than one single Aikido in a certain way. And Aikido offers us what we are prepared to find in it. Aikido can therefore be understood at many different levels. This multifaceted dimension of Aikido can be seen in a negative light, but it is not. Instead, it reveals the richness of this martial art. As was the case for those who came before them, the students of this first generation of senseis learned what they had come for. A certain number among them got interested in applying what they had learned to their personal life or professional activities. They created their own applied Aikido practice, and each of these practices were different. And we can distinguish four determinant factors. First, the Aikido style and lineage. Second, the personal sensibility of the teacher developers, or to say differently, what they were searching in Aikido to progress in their personal evolution path. Third, their personal background or education, their expertise in different domains. And finally, the audience and the domain to which they intended to apply their Aikido experience, therapy, coaching, management, etc. And for education, leaders, managers, teachers, students, so many different cases. We can represent this in a more linear form when we see Aikido practice and the background, creating a unique applied Aikido approach according to the personal quest and sensibility of the person who is developing it, and with a specific intention of applying this in a certain domain with a certain target audience. So, During the last few decades, the number of applications increased, but always as local and one-off initiatives, and with different names. It became clear that these applications of Aikido provided worth and unique qualities, so they have grown in number. And again. But what is even more clear was the fact that all these individual initiatives could not have enough visibility and coherence to exert a real impact on our societies. That's where Applied Aikido Association comes into play. It's a bit like these impressionist paintings. When we see the paint strokes, we cannot see anything than paint strokes. Our ambition at Applied Aikido Association is to offer the world a kind of zoom out. And what comes to mind when I explain this is the old term maïeutics. Maïeutics refers to the method Socrates used to bring forth knowledge. He just helped the people to express what they already knew. He was helping others to give birth to ideas already existing but still needing to be expressed. Socrates is probably a mentor for Applied Aikido Association. Like a midwife who helps a mother to give birth to her child, we are helping the birth of Applied Aikido, helping to deliver what many professionals are already doing and proposing, but delivering it to the world as a global field of knowledge and practice. And that is becoming more and more necessary as the competitive and individualist paradigm is clearly showing its limit and even its negative impact on global well-being. Each Applied Aikido professional brings something different, but always inspired by Aikido. This way, they contribute to something bigger than their own approach and practice. And this bigger whole has a name. It is Applied Aikido. Applied Aikido Association aims to present Applied Aikido to the world as a global field of knowledge and practice, and to give it visibility as a coherent and serious and trustworthy domain. We want also to help people and organizations to find the most suitable Applied Aikido approach and or professional that will fulfill their needs, as we know that the inherent diversity of Applied Aikido can be somewhat confusing. That's what we call readability. And what we offer to our future member, the Applied Aikido professionals and developer, is visibility and credibility. That's why we propose a network of people sharing the same passion. We will organize conferences, meetings to meet and initiate synergies and cooperation. We will encourage further developments of the Applied Aikido field of knowledge. And we will develop a platform to publish papers, books, and all kinds of material, but also a directory of professionals of the field and a calendar announcing their workshop. And to finish this presentation, I'd like to sketch the scope of action of Applied Aikido Association. You can see it as a gradient between pure Aikido practice on the mat and the external world totally ignorant of what Aikido can bring. In between, you can find this evolution about senseis teaching with Aikido with a special Aikido pedagogy, but they are teaching this in an original way to Aikidoists. Then Applied Aikido practitioner, professionals and academics who are teaching and spreading it to people who are not Aikidoists. Then you can have some trainers and coach who are practicing Aikido but are not ready or not really for the moment applying this Aikido in their own domain. And then you have, of course, trainers and coach who are not Aikidoists, who are not applying Aiki, and even don't know the advantage they could have from sharing these practices together. What are we doing at Applied Aikido Association is just this spectrum. For the special Aikido pedagogy people, the sensei, the original sensei, I should say, we can help them, if they want to become Applied Aikido practitioner. I mean by this, teaching to non-Aikidoists and out of their dojo. For Applied Aikido practitioners, it's clear. It's what I told a few minutes ago. Support, network, directory, agenda, conferences, publishing, intervision, development groups, whatever. Okay? For the trainers and the coach who are already Aikidoists but are not applying, we can also help them to bring their Aikido in their domain of expertise. And for trainers who are not Aikidoists, we can present them the possible and the potential synergies that we can develop by joining these Applied Aikido practices with their own practice. It can be anything. It can be nonviolent communication, it can conflict management, it can be negotiation, leadership, approach, technique, etc. And for the world, the audience of the world, the people who are not trainers, we can just make Applied Aikido visible and present it to all the people who are potential audience, potential clients for all these Applied Aikido practitioners and professionals. And now for some of you who knows the landscape of the current, I would say, out of the mat landscape of Aikido, I would just make a kind of a description of how I see the cooperation we are creating for the moment with our sister organization, Aiki Extension, and maybe older sister, because Aiki Extension is quite older than Applied Aikido Association. The board of Aiki Extension defined Aiki Extension as a hub of several different approaches or projects or activities where people are just discovering and developing different way to apply Aikido out of the mat. And as such, if I find my mouse, because if I place the previous schema in this area, we can see that the world of Aikido and the world of the people who are just applying special techniques, special pedagogy about Aikido, but still always on the mat, are just addressed by Aiki Extension, because that's the goal and the definition that Aiki Extension has given itself. It is building a community by bringing Aikido out of the mat. And then we can also make this distinction. The audience of Applied Aikido Association is the world, I mean by this, non-Aikidoist people. And also any kind of Applied Aikido professional academics, and I mean by this, people who are just teaching application of Aikido to people who are not Aikidoist. And Aiki Extension is more addressing itself to the Aikido world, to just open the frontiers of the mat, if there are frontiers on this mat. So bringing Aikido out of the mat is the slogan of Aiki Extension, and the slogan of Applied Aikido Association is bringing Aikido to the world. What we want to do is help the world discover Applied Aikido and realize what it can bring to individuals, to organizations, and to professionals in other disciplines. And to Applied Aikido professionals, we invite them to contribute to a wider goal than what they ever can hope to make in an isolated way. And it is contributing to a more Aiki world. We want to guide any interested person, association or organization to find the most suitable Applied Aikido approach. The Applied Aikido Association is like the young parents of a newborn child. We want to offer them the best future they deserve, and we are totally convinced that in these times of enormous societal change, there is a dire need of Applied Aikido at all levels for individuals, for organization, and for the political arena. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Christian. Feel free to make some comments or ask questions. You can unmute yourself.
I have a comment and a support